Book 13 of Ulcers, Fistulas, and Hemorrhoids. Chapter 1 of the nature, causes, and differences of ulcers. Having already handled and treated of the nature, differences, causes, signs, and cure of flesh and blood wounds, reason and order seem to require that we now speak of ulcers, taking our beginning from the ambiguity of the name. For according to Hippocrates, the name of ulcer most generally taken many signs, all or any solution of continuity, in which sense it is read that all pain is an ulcer. Generally, for a wound and ulcer properly so called, as appeared by his book de Ulcer Rebus. Properly, as when he saith, it is a sign of death when an ulcer is dried up through an atrophia, or defect of nourishment. We have here determined to speak of an ulcer in this last and proper signification, and according thereto we define an ulcer to be the solution of continuity in a soft part, and that not bloody, but sordid and unpure, flowing with quichur, sameness, or any such like corruption, associated with one or more affects against nature, which hinder the healing and agglutination thereof, or that we may give it you in a fewer words according to Galen's opinion. An ulcer is a solution of continuity caused by erosion. The causes of ulcers are either internal or external. The internal are through the default of humors, peccant in quality rather than in quantity, or else in both, and so making erosion in the skin and softer parts of their acrimony and malignancy. Now these things happen either by naughty or irregular diet, or by the ill disposition of the entrails, sending forth and emptying into the habit of the body this their ill disposure. The external causes are the excess of cold seizing upon any part, especially more remote from the fountain of heat, whence follows pain, whereunto succeeds an attraction of humours and spirits into the part, and the corruption of these so drawn thither by reason of the debility or extinction of the native heat in that part, whence lastly ulceration proceeds. In this number of external causes may be ranged a stroke, contusion, the application of sharp and acrid medicines, as caustics, burns, as also impure contagion, as appears by the virulent ulcers acquired by the filthy copulation or too familiar conversation of such as have the French disease. How many and what the differences of ulcers are, you may see here described in this following scheme. A table of the differences of ulcers. An ulcer is an impure solution of continuity in a soft part, flowing with filth and matter or other corruption, whereof there are two chief differences. For one, is simple and solitary without complication of any affect against nature, and this varies in differences either, or is compound in many various ways complicated. Proper, which are usually drawn from three things, to wit, figure, whence one ulcer is called, round or circular, sinuous and variously spread, right or oblique, cornered as triangular. Or proper, which are usually drawn from three things, to wit, quantity, and that either according to their length, whence an ulcer is long, short, indifferent, breadth, whence an ulcer is broad, narrow, indifferent, profundity, whence an ulcer is deep, superficiary, indifferent. Equality or inequality, which consists in those differences of dimensions whereof we last treated, I say in length, breadth, and profundity, wherein they are either alike, or of the same manner, or else unlike, and so of a different matter. Or common and accidental, and these drawn either from their time, whence an ulcer is termed new, old, of short or long cure and duration, from their appearance, whence one is called an apparent ulcer, another a hidden and occult ulcer, from their manner of generation, as if it be made by a heavy, bruising, cutting, pricking, or corroding thing, whence a cut, torn, and mixed ulcer. From their sight, whether an ulcer before, behind, above, below, in the head, tassel, or belly of a muscle. From that part it seizes upon, whence an ulcer in the flesh and skin, or feeding upon the gristles or bones, such as those of the nose, the palate of the mouth, and ears. From other common accidents, whence a Telephian ulcer, that is, such an ulcer as Telephus had, a Chironian, which needs the hand and art of Chiron, a cankerous, which resembles a cancer. With the cause, whence an ulcer is cacophymic, catarrheic, or veninate, that is, with a cacochymia, or repletion of ill humors, a catarrh, or poison, cherishes or feeds. Distemper, whether simple or compound, whence an ulcer is hot, cold, dry, moist, mixed. With the disease, as from smelling or humor or tumor, whence a phlegmonous, erysipelas, edematous, scurrus, cancerous ulcer. Solution of continuity or any other discommodity, whence a rough, callous, fistulous, cavernous, sinuous ulcer with luxation, fracture, etc. With the symptom, then whence a corroding, eating, painful, sordid, and virulent ulcer. With the cause and disease, with the cause and symptom, with the disease and symptom, with the cause, disease, and symptom, examples whereof may be taken from that we have formerly delivered. Chapter 2 of the Signs of Ulcers. There are various signs of ulcers according to their differences, for it is the sign of a putrid ulcer, if it exhale a noisome, grievous, stinking, and carrion-like vapor, together with filthy matter. An eating ulcer is known by the eating in, hollowness, and wearing away of the part wherein it resides, together with the adjoining parts. A sordid ulcer may be known by the grossness and viscidity of the excrements it sends forth, and by the loose and spongy softness, or the crusted inequality of the flesh which grows over it. A cavernous ulcer by the strengthness of the orifice, and largeness and deepness of the windings within. A fistulous ulcer, if to the last mentioned signs there accrue a callous hardness of the lips or sides of the ulcer. A cancerous ulcer is horrible to behold, with the lips turned black, hard and swollen, flowing with virulent and stinking corruption, and sometimes also with bloody matter, together with the swelling and lifting up of the adjacent veins. An untemperate, or as they term it, a distempered ulcer, is such as is nourished by some great distemper, whether hot or cold, moist or dry, or compounded of these. An ill-natured or malign ulcer is known by the difficulty of curing and rebellious contumacy to remedies appointed according to art and reason. We know that a catarrhous ulcer, if the matter which feeds it flow to it from some varices thereunto adjoining, or dilated, swollen and broken veins, or from some entrail, or from the whole body being ill affected. As a posthumous ulcer is perceived by the presence of any tumor against nature, whose kind may be found out by sight and handling. Telephian ulcers are such an affected Telephus and Chironian, in whose cure Chiron excelled, are ulcers which may be known by their magnitude, not much putrid, and consequently not sending forth any ill smell, not eating, not tormenting with pain, but having their lips swollen and hard, and therefore ill to be healed. For although they may be sometimes cicatrized, yet it being but slender may easily be broken, and the ulcer renewed. They are almost like an ulcerated cancer, but that they are accompanied with swellings in the adjacent parts. They are also worse than these which are termed cacoeth, that is, ill-natured or malign, Whence it is that Fernelius thought they had a hidden cause of malignity, besides the common default of the humour, and that such as can scarce be driven away, such commonly are left after the plague. Wherefore Galen thinks such to be malign as will not suppurate or yield any quiture. Chapter 3. Of the prognostics of ulcers. The bone must necessarily scale, and hollow scars be left by malign ulcers of a year's continuance or longer.